and even especially with the case of Led Zeppelin, you've got Robert Plant
Hmm.
being in a band a few different bands actually,
Yeah.
with John Bonham,
Hmm.
and then
And then just sort of meeting up with the two from the south, and off it
yeah,
went.
that's like how did that happen? Like these chance meetings, and Jimmy
Yeah.
Page went all the way up to Warsaw, or I think to see Robert Plant
Yeah.
perform with the band that he was in at the time,
Yep.
and there was hardly anyone there in the audience, I guess, and it was one of those big pubs,
Hmm.
and he said, that's the singer, and then
Yep.
Robert Plant said, well, I know a guy who's really good for a drummer, and
I know you can't imagine that these things actually happen. You just kind of
yeah,
think, but bands like that, they just are. They
yeah,
just
the
they never
biggest,
sort of formed like this. They just sort of appeared in the universe.
like the biggest rock band in the world, and
I know.
it's the most influential, they say, anyway, and it just comes together by
Yep.
these chance things, and it's not always just the talent. There's a lot of luck
Hmm.
involved, and it's fate. I'm a big believer in the fate thing as
Yeah,
well.
it is. You have to, and you have to
Things,
persevere too, I
yeah,
think.
things line up. It's hard work and it's
Hmm.
talent, but
Yep.
the luck has to be there as well, or
Yeah.
else
So what's
it's
happening on your website now? Because you're in Canada. So
yeah.
does someone here run it, or are you still running it? How's it all going?
I'm still running it. I moved recently to a new house. We actually downsized. We went from a big house to a small house, so
Right.
I've had to get rid of a lot of stuff, and
Hmm.
but I'm setting up the site again, and I'm hoping to be able to spend a lot more time working on it now, because
Uh
people
huh.
send me stuff all the time,
Do they
and
still? They still send
they,
things?
they do, and it's great to hear from these people who are actually part of that scene.
Oh,
That's the
that's
most
wonderful. Yeah.
the most exciting thing for me, is to hear from these people who are actually part of that, and they remember that,
Yeah.
and it's their stories are to me the most valuable thing,
Hmm.
because that they might not be well known themselves or famous, but they know people
Yeah.
who are famous now, but they know them when they were actually starting out and nobody
Yeah.
knew them, and there were so many other people that helped them along their way. It's whenever somebody did get famous, you can guarantee there was dozens of people who helped them
Yeah. Yeah.
get that far. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a big process, all of
yeah,
that, going from just sort of like meeting and then figuring out what music to play, and then you have to find managers, places to play, and record company. It's just,
yeah. That's right. Like
crazy hard.
yeah, like Mick Adkins, for instance. He was the one who I was telling you about earlier. He started that first website in the 90s on
Hmm.
the Sundowners and the Chads. Well, Mick, he uh, he was leaving his band, which was called the Chads at the time,
Right.
and they were auditioning guitar players.
Hmm.
And one of the guitar players that showed up was named Jeff Lynne.
Oh, just Jeff Lynne.
Jeff Lynne, yeah, he was late for the audition. Mick
Was
said
he?
he was late. He'd been on the bus, and it was raining, so he was soaked. He got there, he was soaked,
Oh
and
dear.
guess he was late. And all the other, it was in a scout hut or something, and the guys were packing up their equipment because they thought, well,
He's
we're not
not coming.
we're not going to find anyone else today. So when they saw Jeff walk in, soaked to the skin, with his guitar in a plastic bag or something like that, they said they felt sorry for him. So they
Oh,
said, well, we'll set up the gear again and we'll give him a try.
yeah.
And
Good
and
thing they did, huh?
and he turned out to be brilliant. He was about 16 or 17 at the time, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that. Or
So was
maybe,
that story like submitted on your website? Is that how you heard
yeah.
about it?
That was Mick Adkins that
That's
wrote that,
fantastic.
who was the original lead guitarist
Yeah.
for the Sundowners and the Chads, and he wrote a whole thing about his time over in Germany when he went to play over there, and
Hmm.
how they were all living in the van, and the
Yeah.
van kept breaking down, and they had to sleep wherever they could find
Yeah.
accommodation, and of course they never got paid anything back in those days, because they would play somewhere and nobody would pay them, and it was they thought they would make their fortune, but of course they got back to Britain with nothing really. But they had so many great adventures while they were doing it. You know.
Yeah, and those are things that you don't want to lose, really. So I
Yeah,
really love it when fans, do what you've done and put websites together to collect the stories.
yeah,
Because
and
I kind of think, and I wonder if you feel this way, that these stories will be really important in the future.
I
Because
think they will. They're
yeah,
historic. They're historically important,
yeah,
I think. And even if people don't think that they are important now, they will be later on or at some point, I
yeah.
think. And but really, the whole Brumbeat website, it's just taken on a life of its own, really, because all I have to do is sort through all the stuff that people send, and I never have enough time to.
Well, it starts to get big, doesn't it? And then
Yeah,
you're like, oh, there's
it's
so much to
it's
do.
it could easily take over your life
It could, yeah.
if you let it do that. And so far, I haven't let it do that. I still have to have time for my family and work
Yeah.
and all that other kind of responsibilities and stuff like that. But now I'm getting older. I realize that this is something that people are still interested in. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting. So if
yeah,
someone wanted to send a submission to your site, what do they do?
they usually just email me because
Hmm.
my email address is there.
Is it on your website, which is brumbeat.net? Yeah?
Yeah, so it's just john@brumbeat.net.
Right.
And that's the way I've always received emails of different people. But it's in some ways it's a double-edged sword too, because people send me emails. They want to try and get in touch with Noddy Holder or Jeff Lynne,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't give out any
Yeah.
contact information. You see, unless I know it's something really
Yeah,
legitimate.
something that's really legitimate,
But,
yeah.
but they think I know, like Roy Wood and all these people, and I've never met these people. You know,
Have you met any of them, though, that you
I've
admired on your...
like I don't know them. No, I've met a lot of people who have met them, and I've talked to a lot of the people, the guys who are in like Wizard and
Yeah.
bands like that, and different people at the Move and things,
Hmm.
and it's great to talk to them, but really, I think the best. What I like best is the behind the scenes kind of stories, and the people who are actually there
Yeah.
and who were part of this, like my uncle
Hmm.
was like those kinds of stories that he was telling me, and there's a lot of you get people writing sometimes saying, "Oh, it didn't happen like that," this is the way it happens. So I have to change it then, and I
Yeah.
really like to get as many names as I can, and
Hmm.
especially want to make sure the spelling's all right and all this kind of thing. But
Yeah, that kind of thing's important. And do you have to check, like, the legitimacy of stories? Because I can imagine you might get things and you kind of go, well, I'm
oh,
not too sure about this.
I get a lot of conflicting
Yeah.
information, and then I have to decide which is correct, or do I
Yeah.
use bits of both? Sometimes I'll try and present both sides of the
Yeah,
story.
that's an idea. Because everybody kind of has their
Yeah.
own truth, don't they, about a situation?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of things like that,
Hmm.
and it's good if I can verify from different people. Like when I write a story or a biography or whatever, or a story on a certain band, I always try now to get input from at least one of the original members,
Hmm.
because to me that means there's some legitimacy in there, I guess, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
And but that particular member might have a completely different story from somebody else.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like watching like an accident or something. Everybody sees
Yeah.
something slightly different, even though they all watch the same event?
Yeah, that's right.
So
And
that's why I kind of it's very interesting to get lots of people's takes on things because then you just get more and more information.
that's right. And it's funny, even after 40, 50 years or more, some people still don't get along after the band broke up. They
Yeah.
still there's still some animosities and bad feelings going on
Hmm.
there. And after all this time, you would think, they should be friends again, but
Yeah, some
but
wounds never heal though, do they?
it is true. But I'm happy to say that most of them have.